we made it. So yeah, I always like, I know it takes a little delay setting up, but there's like this little bit of panic, like what if it doesn't work?
No.
But reminding myself, what if it does work? Woohoo! Yay. Well, so glad to have you, Liv. If you want to start with telling folks about what you do, I loved when we met last fall. I just love the work you do with adolescents. So go ahead and share a little bit about what you do.
Thank you. Yeah. So my name's Liv Neely. Use they, them pronouns. And yeah, I am currently an outpatient psychotherapist at a practice in Durham, a newer practice called New River Wellness Collective. Um, and so I see around 20 to 25 folks a week, and specialize right now mostly with adolescents, like you mentioned. But I'm really drawn to like transition periods of life. So really like work around the puberty transition, but have a lot of background too around like pregnancy and postpartum, and then some background too in working around menopause. So try to get a little bit of all of that in there, as well as doing a good amount of work, do a lot of gender work. So both with like gender queer folks, trans folks, just to do gender affirming care, and then some trauma work, and also do like a lot of work with like ADHD and autism.
Wonderful. Wonderful. There's such a huge need for that. So it's so great to hear about the work you're doing at your practice. And so with the work you do, like how did you find that transition from, because you have a background in doing some doula work, and share a little bit about how you made that switch?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, doula work was and always will be my first love. I am not actively practicing, but surely will again in the future because it is, I don't know, I don't think I could ever not feel like a doula. But I came to doula work early in college. I started work like just volunteering with the UNC hospital-based program, Birth Partners. And yeah, just fell in love with it. Pretty soon after that, got really involved with trying to increase the accessibility of doula care in the Durham community, and did a good amount of like organizing around that, more at the organizational level, but still while practicing as a doula. And just really, really appreciated like, yeah, becoming so embedded and connected to community through that work, and really understanding how this vital and necessary community is to like that entire time of life, that entire transition, and how systemically rooted a lot of just the failures in healthcare are. So I think I came to know a lot of doula work as sort of harm reduction, which brought about a lot of feelings, but I always did love the, you know, just the relational component of it. I loved how present, mental health was all of the time, and talking about, whether we're bringing a new person into this world or, that's always accompanied by so many feelings. It might be joy, it might be grief, it might be all of those together. And so, while I love that specific area of mental health and wellness, I was initially planning to become a midwife, but went to grad school to get my master's of social work. And yeah, just continued to fall in love with a lot of different forms of mental health care. And I found that a lot of the through lines between doula work and some of the, therapy work I was doing, I adored and wanted to explore sort of that avenue some more and expand it out beyond just the perinatal time period.
That's so wonderful. Yeah, I love how it's so comprehensive, because oftentimes some of the issues that folks are dealing with in that perinatal period, there's so many things that happen beforehand. So, but that transition is when it comes up. So, and then with that in mind, so what are some of the top issues or concerns that folks reach out to you for?
Yeah. So right now, I would say the most common, I work probably about 80% of my caseload is adolescents, which I love. It is such an incredibly eventful and dynamic time period of life. And I would say a huge bulk of that is doing like gender related work. So I think overall, it's this really beautiful time of self-discovery. There are so many challenges though too, that the youth experience. There's just so much that can happen at schools. There's so much happening in the world. So just trying to, really build and deepen a relationship and value that so much while, trying to be really creative. Like I love adolescence because it is such a creative population. Whether that's just really trying to get to know the interests of folks and bringing art into it, or I try to bring movement and that somatic focus, and teach those like awareness skills early on. Just helping folks to like really learn early on to, that trusting your body is so significant. Learning more language around emotions and feelings, and learning how to welcome them and move through them. But yeah, I think having the focus I do around both like neurodivergence and gender work has just been such a gift. Everybody is just such an incredibly unique person, and I think with the gender work, especially in a state like North Carolina, it is very powerful to just be able to be with folks and in solidarity with folks, or helping to just continue that journey and exploration. So right now that is my primary area of focus, and with the neurodivergence component and with the gender component too, I really love working with that population, because as much as I can, I try to involve parents too, and can do a lot of like coaching and sort of more on the educational side, so that like the adolescents themselves don't have to completely do that, but can really help find accommodations too, and just interact with a lot of different people to try to create environments that really send the message that we're not trying to change you, we're just trying to adapt your environments to like bring out the incredible strengths that your brain has, right? And mitigate and just understand better some of the challenges too.
Yes, that is so wonderful, the resource you have. Especially, I love what you said about that family dynamic. I've got three kiddos, one who is definitely a tween, the other one who is like gonna be there very soon. It starts early. Like what year, what age is like a technical tween?
Oh goodness. My brain wants to say 11, but I don't know, it might be more of a mindset. Because yeah, I start, my youngest right now are 10, so I kind of see 10 and up, mostly like 10 to 15. Got a couple that are older. And I see adults too, and I love that. I have to see adults too, because if I spent all my time with tweens, it would feel very different. But I really do think too, like getting to work with both like younger folks, and also, I see folks all the way into like their 60s and would see older, but I love doing like intergenerational work too. It's really, it informs itself so much. It is so nice to be able to be talking about honestly a lot of the same things regardless of how old folks are. But just get really creative about how to, and I think, with any therapy, I think the relational component is so significant, and I think it is always my top priority to go in like never assuming anything, never trying to like categorize people, and just going in with such an open mind and an open heart. And I think when you work with a lot of different ages and a lot of different developmental stages, that's just like, you have to do that.
Yes.
I really love like the challenge it offers too, to have certain orientations I gravitate more toward, and skills I like to introduce, but to always be sort of translating it into different ways to, because yeah, if tweens aren't interested something, it's not gonna go very far. So you gotta get creative.
Yeah, no, that's like the story of my life. So yeah, and depending on the technical definition, maybe I'm like my oldest is heading towards tween, but yeah, like adolescents, that kids have their own ideas, their own joys, their own talents, and learning how to just let that be embraced rather than putting them into my little parent box.
Yeah, yeah, right. I mean, exploring their strengths, exploring their identity, like just talking about, like healthy relationships too, or talking. I don't do too much, like I haven't in this space, I don't really do much like sex education or, you know, more education around like body stuff. But I think that is a component from doula work too that I really appreciate having a number of perspectives in. And I think goes back to what I said earlier of just like teaching folks really early on, like, no, like you are the expert of your body, of your mind, of your emotions. Like, how can we really just dial into that trust, and know that we're going to be in so many different environments, but like it is so important to know that and just to like build confidence and esteem around like just being very free and very affirmed and like trusting your own body.
That's great. And so with that in mind, like the adolescents, they're and tweens and teens, they're growing up in a social media age. So what would you say is like a top myth or something that you could bust or challenge in your field that you see floating out there online?
Yeah, I really liked this question. I think overall there can be a lot of like, buy this thing and it will make you feel better, or so much of therapy is the process. So I think just talking about how there's really no one solution that's going to work with everyone, and that is not like completely an individual's job. I think like challenging a lot of the pressures around individualism too that can sort of leach into wellness spaces or mental health. Really, I really try to bring in conversation around how significant being in community is and relating to one another. That therapy is not just to you know be by yourself or be in just a really tiny private space and like work on yourself and then you'll be whole and like deserving of relationships, right? That like they're all so significant. And I think like it's been really interesting because I am on TikTok. I love TikTok, and very interesting though to see how, as especially for young people, such a site of information sharing, how like various diagnoses are talked about. Or, there's just can be a lot of awareness around various diagnoses at different points of time. And sometimes understanding of those is, I don't want to say accurate, but I think as a clinician going into that, not being like, don't self-diagnose, like you're wrong, but just going into that very curious, like, okay, like what have you learned about this? Like what parts of this are you finding resonance with? Like, I'm really curious about that. We can have the diagnosis and that whole talk later, but not coming from a place of judgment, but really being curious and aware that spaces like TikTok and Instagram like do have a lot of mental health content, and knowing that teens, adolescents, and I mean everyone is exposed to that, right? And just trying to, that can honestly be a really helpful way of establishing rapport with younger folks, and just trying to gain more understanding into how they understand themselves and what frameworks they've already learned about for doing that. I think I'm excited right now because it seems like sort of the somatic focus around mental health is gaining some traction on social media too. So hoping to find ways to partner with that content, at least the type, that I agree with and I think is productive and helpful. And also like be aware of, certain myths that are out there too.
Yeah, that's so helpful. And I love what you said about like the importance of community. Because in our American society, like individualism is like kind of the thing.
Yeah.
But as humans, we're not made to be alone. We're wired for community
Hmm.
through all stages of life.
Hmm.
And I love that, just being able to have that space for the teens to really be able to be able to be themselves when they're with other people too.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's, kind of being your own little silo that just can create other problems. So.
Right. And I think too, it's really been interesting, like working with a population that just because of their age, like a lot of the kiddos I get, it's their first time coming to therapy ever. And, I know that just as one person, I cannot be the, like, I cannot introduce them to all the forms that therapy takes, but I really do try to take a very like consent forward, like, here are some of the things I like to try, but we're going to check in a lot just to see like whether that felt helpful, because I'm not trying to do anything that doesn't feel helpful. And using that therapeutic relationship itself, once you are continuously building the trust and all of that, that therapy space itself can be such an incredible, just like practice space for setting boundaries and giving consent or not giving consent and having that respected, and like learning a lot of those more like interpersonal and like community building skills too, which I just think is so cool.
That's
I
so
love.
awesome. I love it. I love it. Yeah. Oh man, we could probably go on and on about that
Yeah,
one. Um, but what would you say? What would you do for fun? So you have your clinical work, and
yeah,
what are some of the other things that make you you?
yeah. I love music. So I'm in a ska band. I actually played at the Shikori Hills Festival this weekend, which was such a joy. So much fun. But yeah, it's a band of eight. I like sang all through college. I did musical theater through college. That was my like main scene. So um, not selfishly, but I really do appreciate being able to like bring in music and like dance and art into like the therapeutic space too, right? When folks are interested in that. But definitely, I think as I've progressed more into this job too, I've found that I've leaned a lot more into my like creative outlets, which I've really appreciated. So music would take the top spot for that one. I play the synthesizer and I sing.
That's awesome. That's so fun. So fun. Well, thank you so much for your time today. What is a great way for folks to be able to connect with you if they want to learn more about the support you offer?
Yeah, no, thank you so much. It's been such a joy connecting more. So we have a website. Our practice is called New River Wellness Collective. It's just newriverwellnesscollective.com. My profile is there with my email and contact info. And I also have a Psychology Today profile just with my name, Liv Neely, if folks want to get in touch or ask any questions.
Awesome. Great. Well, I will be sure to put that in the caption. Anybody who's watching, be sure to forward this to any of your friends, maybe their parents of tweens or parents who might resonate with Live Support. And have a great rest of your day, Liv. We'll be in touch.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Bye, y'all.